Hi everybody, welcome to another one of my videos where I use exposure and response prevention. Let's try this. You know what? Just keep going. Where I use exposure and response prevention to help treat my choking phobia. So, exposure and response prevention, just a quick recap for anyone who is new to these videos, is a psychological technique used for people who have anxiety disorders, and it's particularly effective for people who have anxiety disorders. Because the thing with an anxiety disorder is you have a fear of doing a certain thing, and therefore it's not that we give an example. Let's take social anxiety. Social anxiety is a fear of being in social situations. So what the person does to allay that anxiety is to stay inside and not engage outside with people. Don't even answer the phone, right? Those things, what we would call symptoms or diagnostic criteria of social anxiety: not leaving the house, feeling nervous answering the phone, feeling nervous in social settings, being considered shy, right? To the point where maybe you're not going to work because you don't want to talk to people, or you feel them being judged negatively. All these things are what are called responses to your anxiety. They're directly related to your fear or anxiety. I use fear and anxiety interchangeably because anxiety is just another word for fear. I think it has more connotation than that. I'm just using it as fear right now, but I know anxiety is closely related to fear. And to continue that example, a person who has social anxiety would not do these things. These things would be considered completely distressing to the person who has social anxiety. They would want to do them, and they might even realize to a certain extent they're irrational. Having said that, they would still kind of feel the need to do them to feel less anxious. So what a psychologist would do is have them slowly face their fears, slowly have them call someone on the phone, or maybe just open a window, hear the air and the birds chirping, and maybe have a goal to go around the block. And if you can do those things the first day of your anxiety, or the first week of your anxiety, or the first couple of exposures, as they would call them, exposures, where you expose yourself and don't do things that make you anxious, you would become less and less anxious to this thing. I do the same thing with my choking phobia, or choking anxiety, whatever you want to call it, fear of choking on food. I, do the thing that makes me anxious. The one thing I forgot to neglected to mention here is you need to rate your anxiety before and after you do the thing that makes you anxious. So in my example, before you open the window, before you make that phone call to someone, because you're anxious, just write a number down. How anxious do I feel? Is it 10 out of 100? Is it 80 out of 100? Is it 2 out of 100? Is it 70, 60? When I first began, it was like 70s and 60s. And then if you do it every day, I like to do it a certain time every day, you realize those numbers come down. And when you stop, you set a goal. I'm going to eat, for example, I'm going to open this window and talk to this person and go around the block today. Once you've done all that, you rate your anxiety level after they're done. After you open the window, you write down the number from 70 to 69, right? It might happen sometimes that time, but it does work. So I'll show you guys how I do it with my choking phobia. So I have, right now, I'm going to write my anxiety. I have food. I'm not particularly hungry, but I've been doing this for so long. I know I have to just shut up and eat now because it's fuel. I don't really see it as I just see more of a nuisance to eat. That's weird. Okay, so my anxiety level, let's go with 100. It's a 10. So that's what I recorded. Now I'm going to eat, and I might put something on if you guys get bored, but this is exposure response prevention therapy right here.
He said that go the path of ease with yourself. In other words, don't wipe out yourself, because you need yourself. You don't want to, your horse has to get you to where you're going. So you treat your horse well. Don't overdo it, right? He's not saying don't be lazy, but don't wear your horse out until it can't take you anymore. And in order for you to move along with yearning, you see, because if you're not too hard on yourself, then yourself will do these things. Like if you try to stay up the whole night, that's too hard on the self. If you try to stay up half the night, it's too hard on the self. And so the self won't, it'll just lose its energy. Whereas if you start just doing a little bit, then there's a shauq because you start tasting it and you get the benefit of it, and then you desire it. So actually you're looking forward to it. The self begins to look forward to it, right? And that's what he's saying. And then he says, because 2 rakats done from a lover is better than 1,000 done without love. So if you do 2 rakats with shauq, you want to desire, you're really desirous of Allah's pleasure, and if you do those 2 rakats, Allah will love it. But if you're there doing, I have to do these, and it's important, and I have to, and you're doing that, there's no love there. You're doing it with this idea in your head. So that's the point is that is out of a yearning for Allah that this should all come as a muhabba from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Alright? And then he says, wasamtu. Silence, one of the, obviously, laddatu al-kalam. Kalam is ladhi for most people, to speak. And that's why the Prophet said, Man utiya samta faqad utiya al-hikmah. Whoever was given silence, just as part of his nature, he's been given wisdom. There's a wisdom in being silent. Just in being silent, even if he's an ignorant person, if he was given silence, he has a wisdom. Which is, if you're an ignorant person, don't make a fool out of yourself. If you have something to say, then in that case, speech is better than silence. If you have nothing to say, then it's mubah, right? But there's no benefit in it. It's just mubah. Now, if that mubah kalam is how are you, where have you been, this and that, that's fine. But if it's did you hear about so and so, then it moves to either makruh or haram. And so learning how to control the tongue is that's a big discipline. Imam Shafi'i radiallahu anhu said that when he was in a gathering and needed to say something, he always looked into himself to make sure that that he wasn't saying it out of a desire from his nafs to prove something or to show his knowledge. He checked first that is it acceptable to him that somebody else would say the same thing. And he said if he was aware of that, then he would say it. If he wasn't, he would remain silent as a tarbiyah for his nafs. And he also said that I never had a debate with anyone except that I prayed to Allah. He made a dua that Allah would make the truth manifest on his opponent's tongue so that he could submit to it. In other words, he didn't want to win the debate. He would actually prefer to lose the debate so it would make him humble. And that's a ragh. I mean, that's amazing. So that's the point, is that and the Prophet kind of asmat al-nas. He was the most quiet of people. وَإِذَا تَكَلَّمَ تَكَلَّمَ بِالْحَقِّ. When he spoke the truth. So he was not somebody who was what's called safta. And he said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, إن أبعدكم مني وأبغضكم إلي يوم القيامة الصرصارين المتفلسفين الصرصارين. There's 3 things. الصرصارين والمتفلسفين is the last one. And they knew the صرصارين and they knew the second one. They didn't know the next one. He said it's متكبر. صرصار is somebody who speaks a lot. كرثرة يثرثر. They speak a lot. So he didn't like people that just spoke all the time. Right? Chatterbox, what they call chatterbox. If you're teaching, if you're saying something useful, it's another thing. But if it's just kalam for kalam's sake, then it's a waste of time. And Imam Malik radiallahu anhu said about one man, one of his students, he said, نِعْمَ الرَّجَلْ إِلَّا أَنَّهُ يَتَكَلَّمُ كَلَامَ شَهْرٍ بِيَوْمٍ وَاحِدٍ. He's a good man, except he speaks a month's worth of talking in one day. And then al-fikra وَهُوَ خَالِ. Fikra means وَهُوَ خَالِ means literally to be in a place where there's nobody around and you're reflecting. And that's called meditation in English. To meditate is a practice. right? Not like a yogic or something like that, but literally sitting and meditating. And basically there's different ways to do that. And you get into different traditions within the tradition of Islam. Some will do at-tafakkur fil mawt, like doing ahwal al-qiyamah, which is a practice. So you can literally, you sit and you go through the qiyamah, the visualization of going through the raising in the grave and these type things. Other is to do to tafakkur in the divine name. So you go through the divine names, right? Ya Allah, Ya Rahman, Ya Rahim. You go through the divine names and reflect on the attributes, things like that. Right? So dhikra wa huwa khali is useful for the heart. And then صحبة الأخيار أهل الصدق من يهتدى بحالهم والنطق. This is keeping the company of good people, and it comes from a Quranic injunction in which Allah says, "Ya ayyuhal ladhina amanu, taqullah wa kunu ma'as sadiqin." Have taqwa and be with the truthful one. In other words, sahba. And this is what they call in Persia sahbat, keeping good company with the righteous people in order to purify your heart. And Imam Ibn Ata'illah radiallahu anhu says in the Hikam, لا تصحب إلا لا تصحب من لا ينهضك حاله ولا يدلك على الله مقاله. Don't take as a companion somebody whose state does not elevate you, and his speech does not direct you to Allah. And Sidi Ahmed Zarruq says in his commentary, he's not talking about shuyukh, he's talking about your friends that you spend time with. In other words, you should find people that are going to elevate your state, not to bring it down. And by elevating your state, their state is elevated, so you become elevated. What it means is that their hal with Allah is that they're in a good state. They're in a state of gratitude. So if you're with people in a state of gratitude, it's hard to complain around them. Right? You can't, because they're saying, Alhamdulillah, I feel really grateful, like, SubhanAllah, Allah's giving us so much. And so you're sitting there going, yeah, I'm sorry, I can't agree with you, I just, life's tough and blah, blah, blah. He's in a different half from you. So if you're the one in shukr, don't be with the one in shakwa. And if you're the one in shakwa, desire to be with the one in shukr in order for you to become like him. So don't bring him down, let him bring you up. That's what it's saying. And then also that their speech directs you to Allah. There are people that if you did complain to them, they would say, SubhanAllah, Allah says, وَإِن تَعُدُّوا نِعْمَهُ لَا تَحْصُوهَا. If you try to enumerate his blessings, you can't enumerate them. That's for everybody. So maybe you should just try enumerating his blessings instead of looking at the trouble. So they help you change your focus and remind you. And it's amazing how a person's state can be changed by just sitting with somebody who gives them good and sincere advice. Really, they can completely turn that heart around, and a person who was completely black and negative, because the effect of it was useful and valuable, they change their perspective, and that's guidance. So you want that. And then Sidi Abu Hassan radiallahu anhu said, "Man dallaka ala dunya faqad ghashaka." Whoever tells you to go to the world, he's cheated you. Right? So if they tell you, oh, you know what you should do with your life? You really want to do good financial planning and get, this house and blah, blah, and all these, and that's their whole focus. They're indicating to you to dunya that he's cheated you, because you could die at any moment. And this is why the example that I like to use is the example of, there's two salesmen. There's a salesman, right? And he comes and he says, I've got 2 houses for sale. One of them, if you buy it, the only problem with it is it could disappear at any time. And I can't tell you how long it's going to be around. Maybe 50 years. Maximum, it'll only be about 70 years. And then it definitely will disappear. But anytime during that time, it could disappear. But I have another house that's going to last forever. And it's guaranteed. But it's more expensive. So which one are you going to buy? And seriously, which one are you going to buy? Any man with intellect or woman with intellect, they're going to buy the more expensive one. And that's akhirah. And you buy it with your soul. It's for sale, you buy it with your soul. And the other one, you buy with your soul as well. But you buy it by destroying your soul, not by saving it. Come on. So, keeping good company with people.
Exposures ended. Most of the time, you don't want to make these exposures particularly long. Actually, what I mean to say is, most of the time, you want to make the exposure particularly long. I've been doing this for about 2 months now, so I'm very thankful. Excuse me, and grateful that I can get through my exposures a bit faster now, because I know what to expect, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to be honest with you. I sometimes look at them as a burden. I think to myself, I eat because I need the fuel. That's what my aunt told me, because she realized I wasn't eating a lot. She's like, you know, think of it like fuel. Your body's a car. You need the fuel. It's kind of like the same thing. I eat because it's like a task I have to do. Like, okay, you gotta get fuel in your car. You gotta do it. If you end out of fuel, you're gonna be on the middle of the road. You know what I mean? So it's like that. I know people that enjoy food and enjoy the taste, and I definitely do enjoy the taste of foods. I do try to eat foods that are enjoyable and taste good. There's actually a trick with CBT, especially with choking phobia. If you do something that kind of entices you, for example, social anxiety, try going to a place that's like fun. It's maybe like eventually as a goal. You go to, like, you know, a theme park or a movie theater or something, like a park. People go and have fun. When you do that, you give yourself an incentive to do the exposures over and over again, because they can get boring, they can get scary. If you saw my earlier videos, they get very scary, they start crying. You just gotta manage those emotions. It'll make you a better person. It really makes you a better person, how you deal with your anxiety and your mindfulness and your brain. It's like a muscle, like any other muscle. If you don't use it, it will get, you know, atrophy. I went from a 10 to like a 10, which is a success. That means I've kept my anxiety in check. I haven't increased it nor decreased it. There's just no cure for certain types of anxiety, like OCD, social anxiety, I believe, OCPD. I think most anxiety disorders, there's no cure. There's no cure because the cause is unknown. It's believed to be a combination of genetic factors and like a bunch of life events that may have happened and kind of sparked, you know, the genetic factors, and it was like caused this whole explosion. The best thing to do is manage it, like firefighters. There's no cure to fires being started in the world. We're always going to have firefighters, but they are the most effective treatment method. Firefighters, you get them out there, you get them out fast, they save lives, they risk their own lives. You know what I mean? They're like the antibodies of the anxiety world. They come out there and they try killing everything, but you got to focus them on only fires, or in your case, your specific anxiety disorder, judgment of people, or what, OCD, or washing hands too much, or for me, not eating food, right? You gotta get in there and basically extinguish the fire. So these, as you can see, anxiety. If you look at my first videos, I might even want to do a reaction video of like my first video of doing this, and now like be reacting to that, because I was so anxious. I was so scared. I literally thought I'm gonna die live, like on YouTube. The last thing I'm gonna be doing basically is I'm gonna be choking, and then it'll be uploaded to YouTube, and like it would be like one of the last videos on my phone or something. You know what I mean? So and then once you carry that to its logical conclusion with actions, when you say to yourself, okay, so you are gonna die uploading this video on YouTube, you know, you think about it, like, it just doesn't click. You're gonna die because you eat, and you get it, like YouTube, you got to make these videos, but to make the connection, this doesn't make rational sense. No one's, I don't think, died uploading a video on YouTube. How does that even make sense? What part of uploading a video on YouTube is fatal? You know what I mean? The upload button, or so you begin thinking more rationally when you face your anxiety, because when you're anxious, it gets worse if you don't face it. You start becoming irrational if you don't face your anxiety. And the best way to face it is simply to become more rational by not just thinking, I'm going to be rational, but by doing the things that make you anxious. When you do the things that make you anxious in a piecemeal, slow fashion, as my mom would say, baby steps, right? Small, bite-sized, pun intended, right? Bite-sized amounts. You get okay with it, you move on. I know people that have had much worse much worse choking phobia than I have. This woman was featured on Intervention. I don't know if it's still on Netflix. She was a victim of sexual abuse, and she had a stomach, basically syringe she would pump into her stomach because she was so scared of choking on food. She did this for years. Since the age of 16, she's like 25 now, and she has this stomach thing in her stomach. She simply takes the supplements, the shake, puts it in her stomach, which is basically sepsis by this point, infected because there's a foreign body being inserted into her stomach. It's swelling, and disgusting. She gets that nutrients from that. Nutrients. And it was so disgusting. And she finally got help. She could eat baby food. I got very proud of her because she finally faced her fear. Like, she had an addiction problem. That's why she's on Intervention. Her anxiety problem, she faced her fear of choking on food. She started with baby food, chewed it a bit, and she started eating baby food. And that's a huge accomplishment. I know we can all, I can say, oh, I'm so great at anxiety. When I first started, that would be so scary to eat something just beginning, So even when you're in a hospital setting, you still feel, because you're in a hospital, you feel safer. At least most people do. You're around the nurses, and people care for you, they care for your health, make sure you're okay, comforting. What's that word they use? Bedside manner. If you have bedside manner, still, if you have a legitimate choking phobia, you're gonna feel like you're gonna choke. Even the thought will go, I'm gonna choke, but there'll be nurses around me, so I'll simply be able to get help by coughing and telling them, and waving my hands around and telling I'm choking, and I'll eventually get help. That's how the thought goes. The thought doesn't go, you're that's insane. People choke if they talk while they're eating